Namaste. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, and I am here with.
Happy Hanna, and I'm in Happy Jack Yoga headquarters in Bracebridge, Canada.
Nice. Welcome home. Welcome back, Hanna. We missed you last week. We had a fantastic episode with our dear friend Kristen. She rocked it and had some great some connections and questions. But it's nice to have you back.
Thank you. It's good
And
to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back. I feel like for myself, I'm sure you can hear it a little bit in my voice. Basically, between the last podcast and today, this podcast, I got sick. I caught a cold, one of those things that took me out. Fever, runny nose, headache, going back and forth from like sweating buckets to freezing, all of those kind of normal symptoms. Took me out for a week. And
So
yeah,
welcome back to you then as well.
yeah, welcome back to me as well.
Back to
Exactly.
living.
I haven't, of course, I'm back into my meditation. Well, I didn't give that up, but today did my meditation, my yoga. I'm still not back to working out so badly. It's like such a sunny day. I want to go for a run so bad, but I know it's not good for my body. So still going to rest for another couple of days. But that being said, there's no excuse for being here. We can be here on a podcast. We can connect. And I find I'll be curious when I go back to listen to the episode. Sometimes when I'm like depleted or tired or like run down, that's when some of the best sharing and the best vulnerability and the best conversations can come, right? It's less about high energy and more about, tapping into the heart. So no pressure on myself, but let's let's see how the day goes.
That was good.
So I've got some opening things, but maybe before I jump to that, obviously want to thank everybody, who's here with us live. Oh my goodness, we got 15 yogis live, literally around the globe. Thank you for being here with us. For those who are listening on the platforms, Spotify, Apple, etc., thank you for your support. And also, and for the reviews, the reviews are increasing. We appreciate that. If you want to join us here in Zoom and be able to be a part, because we get to say hi before the episode begins, and we also get to have a little debrief at the end of the podcast, which is always fun and insightful. Send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. We'll get you the Zoom codes. And I guess the one big announcement that we should really share is this upcoming Friday, especially for our US friends, and really it's pretty global now, it's Black Friday, which is a time, I like to think of it as like a time of thanks, a time of giving. It's the Thanksgiving weekend. And it's also a time that we have our biggest sale of the year. So I'm preaching to the choir, everybody here who is in with Zoom with us, you've been part of the community and members. But if anybody out there is listening and feels inspired to become a certified yoga teacher, or perhaps do some additional yoga education, get your 200 hour, get your 500 hour, we'd love to welcome you. We got a pretty incredible community here, and it's the biggest discount of the year. So send us an email if you want details on that. But Hanna, I want to bounce it off to you and do my best to rest my voice a little bit throughout the next hour. Will you give us an update? You just got back from pretty incredible journey. It sounds very exotic for you. It's like going home. You're literally going home to your home countries. But what is on your heart? Being back grounded now in Muskoka, reflecting. What would you share?
It's really emotional for me. Like when you say my home countries, it really is that way. And then it's like I've lived in both of the countries that I visited. I was in Liechtenstein and I was in Italy. And I've had important years, like formative years that I've spent in both those countries with really, really important people, to me, important people. In Liechtenstein, I feel like there's my family, my sister and her family, Annette.
Not literally your sister, just for those who don't know. But
Yeah,
no, just so people don't think you do have a sister, but somebody who's like a sister.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so being with her is so beautiful and emotional too. Like I cried a lot because it awakened something in me that kind of maybe wasn't active, or, I was a bit dormant all these years. I didn't even think about it before I was there. Just the way we eat or speak, or the way the air smells, is really kind of touches me deeply. Like somehow my heart is like pulsating open, and I feel a lot. There's a lot of emotion in me. And I had a therapy session, up in the mountains, because I'm in a therapy training, so we therapize each other. And I was able to identify that, that it wasn't that I was sad or, worried about anything. It's just raw life energy that, through being exposed to beautiful places, I just somehow felt a lot of what I call now raw life energy that I can use for creating, whatever it is that is important to me, relationships, my work, all of that. So I feel like I have a lot of energy like that I received from both being in Liechtenstein and around in Italy with beautiful people.
That's awesome. I was just writing down the term raw life energy. I like that, that, and I feel like there's something about when we're in an environment that is vulnerable, that is heart opening, that feels really good. Um, it's like that is when this energy comes from. And interestingly, for myself being sick this past week, although that's not something any of us really wish for or,
Mm.
seek for, but there's something about like in that pausing and stilling, and they're just that time of reflection, that and inspiration and an energy comes from. And I think that's it's really beautiful that you're able to have that for the past couple of months, to connect with soul sisters, just to take that time and come back inspired and ready to keep doing all that you do.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Mm, I love it. And I just gonna put a little plug here, something we're testing out, because you'll get to hear it at the end of this episode. So at the end of the last episode, Kristen put me on the hot seat, and she asked me some questions that I did not prepare for. And
Mhm.
so this week, I'm putting Hanna on the hot seat, and so I've got some questions for you,
Woohoo!
that you don't know what they are.
I'm
And so we're gonna have some
excited.
fun with that. I see Osaga smile, and she's looking forward to that. um, that's so beautiful, and it just makes me think. You know, I don't know if it's like a midlife. I don't want to call it a crisis. It could be.
A
Into times it
midlife
feels like it.
opportunity.
Midlife opportunity,
Or
midlife
midlife
reflections.
opening. Midlife
Yeah,
opening.
right. Like we just, I don't know. I'm in that space of just like, what do we want to do with the rest of our life? Like it's kind of exciting. Like obviously, there's certain things we're gonna keep doing. Happy Jack yoga, leading satsang, things that we love. But it's like, wow, what really matters? How do we want to spend our time? And as I'm preparing, I won't turn my camera right now, but if I turned 90 degrees the angle, you'd see just a pile of boxes to my left, because I'm in the process of planning to move to the yoga ashram. And so one of the things I did actually while I was sick, I don't watch a lot of movies and Netflix and that kind of stuff, but I was like, I've got to give my brain a break. I'm not just going to lay here sick and keep reading books for school. I gotta numb out a little bit. So I watched this documentary called like The Minimalists.
Mm.
Um, I was waiting for Elizabeth to respond. I knew she would. I knew she'd appreciate that. And just talking about like simple living and what do we really need. And so as I'm kind of setting things aside here, it's like, okay, well, these are important. They're going to go back to Canada, because they're things I want to keep the rest of my life. A few little things. And then here's a few things that I want to bring to the yoga ashram because I need them for day-to-day living. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle that's like, this is just stuff, and I don't have a lot of stuff here, but there's stuff. And kind of in deciding like what do I need to bring? Do I need to bring a baseball hat to the ashram? Like is it really, am I going to need it between January and April? Probably not. Do I need to bring a Happy Jack yoga mug just so that I'm representing while I'm there? Or can I use one of the other many mugs that are there? So it's like these, I know this is like superficial stuff, but there's just these like little decisions of like, what do I need? What do I want to hang on to? And I can see that, in time, if we're not careful, it can continue to expand. And there's nothing inherently bad about those things, I would say. But it's, I guess, our relationship that we have to it. And, perhaps if we have tendencies of binge shopping or something like that, then it's a different thing. But yeah, it's a nice space to be in, hey Hanna, just like reflecting on life and like how we want to spend our time. And yeah, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, same. I feel like my grandma, her name was also Hanna, and she was always like beaming with love. She was like so kind of like content. She knew how to appreciate everything that is like right in front of her. And I was always wondering, kind of like I was used to her being that way, but I always wondered like why was she so grateful? But I think maybe it is like she also was a widow at that time, and maybe it's just heart opens as you mature, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I look forward to your continued insights that we'll get to enjoy in our courses and our satsangs. And you also talked about having had a therapy session. I also, Saga, I'm happy to report I had my second therapy session. I know after the last time we had some good debrief, and Saga appreciated that conversation, as did many others. Um, but yeah, I had the second session yesterday, and fantastic as well. Like I feel like I've been recently, and you probably heard it on recent podcast episodes and different calls. Like there's been like an internal pressure I've been putting on of like trying to figure out, what do I want to do? And what I kind of figured out was like I'm trying to plan what I'm going to do after I finish school here, right? Because I'm like the eternal planner, the internal controller. Got to figure it out. Got to know what the next step is, so I take all the right actions to succeed at whatever that next step is, and be ready and rock it. And so I've been trying to think of like, well, what do I want to do after I graduate? Like I'll graduate here from Harvard Divinity School in May of 2025, so it's still a bunch of time. And it's like, so what do I want to do next? And I feel like after the therapy session, not that she was telling me what to do, of course not, but just through the conversation, I feel like just the pressure went away of like,
Mm.
actually, I don't need to figure it out. In fact, like, the thing that she put as an idea, again, not saying what to do, but she said like it's okay if you just take some time to process all of what you've just experienced, right? You don't have to finish this and immediately jump into the next big project, whatever that happens to be. But like taking some time, like that's actually a very yogic thing to do. And I thought, that's something I needed to hear, and maybe it's something that could be helpful for others as well, right? We work hard at some certain thing. I know it, Amy Pruitt, this is to you too, because you're wired like me. I see you nodding, right? It's like when we finish a project or whatever it is, like let's celebrate that. Let's reflect on it. Let's let it integrate.
Yeah, and you haven't even finished this project
I
yet. You're
know.
still halfway
I
with
know.
Harvard Divinity School, but it's great that you have. So what would that look like for you? What does it mean to integrate and digest
Yeah. So she said a term, and again, she's not trying to direct me, but she's just like throwing out, I don't know,
concept?
words. And yeah, this concept that really resonated with me was a spiritual sabbatical. And when I heard that, I was like, ooh, I want that, a spiritual sabbatical. And
Please.
and of course, I mean, something I know, and Hanna, you and I talk about it all the time. No matter what that looked like we will always keep doing Happy Jack Yoga, leading the podcast, leading the courses, leading the satsang. That's something that's going to stay as long as we're alive. Um, but not jumping into another big huge commitment, whether that's academic commitment or personal development commitment, or some big home related project. So whether that looked like going to India for some time, or whether it looked like living very simply in the nature of Canada, right? I mean, sabbatical experience can very much be had in Canada. So I haven't figured it out, and I should probably not try to figure it out. But there's just like this ease, like coming off of that therapy session yesterday, of like, oh man, I can. You mean the next step can be take time to process and to like integrate all that I've experienced, like, and like actually, yeah, that's very ideal. That's not frowned upon by the yogis at all. That's encouraged. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
well, so stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be plenty of obsessing about different ideas about what that looks like. But um, so so I wanted to share that. The other thing I wanted to point. Well, let me bounce back to you. Anything else, Hanna, that if from your reflections or just what's on your heart these days?
Well, I am happy to be at home. It's lovely to feel the wintry air and like start feeling that winter is coming. And I'm also looking into the grief course that I'm creating that runs live in December.
Yeah.
And it's a 25-hour yoga teacher training that everyone is welcome to join. You don't have to be a yoga teacher to join. And basically, we'll see what grief is and how it can present and how to deal with it if we have grief in our lives. And I think with the state of the world now, it's relevant for everyone to be involved in some type of grief contemplation. So
Mm.
I'm really excited about that. And I feel really grounded too, because I've had massive grief in my life and it's easy to be, um, you know, a lot of raw life energy can be happening and it will, but, I feel really, I don't know, really happy and peaceful around the creation of the next course.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
going to be a good one. It's going to be important. I know you created some incredible content while you were over there in Europe, and some pretty spectacular backdrop or just nice spaces you were creating content in. And yeah, so that's December 11 through 15. If anybody feels inspired to do that important work, either from past grief that we've been through or upcoming that all of us will eventually go through again.
Yeah, or even just to understand grief psychology, like how that works for,
Mm,
when something difficult happens.
yeah. I think I need to take that course, or I want it. I don't need to. I want to take that
Yeah.
course. I want to prepare, or not prepare. I want to learn.
Hmm.
So nice one. And then the maybe I'll give one last update before we jump into things, and that is today on this date, November the 21st, 2009, 14 years ago. I took I'll simulate. I've got a green juice bottle in my hand right now. So instead of a green juice bottle, I had a bottle of Crown Royal whiskey, and I poured it down the sink in my apartment in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And that was the last time I ever drank. And I'm not here to preach. Yeah, thanks for the celebration, Saga and others, and Elizabeth. I know many of you enjoy a glass of wine or a glass of champagne or this and that. Not here to preach, but that was the right decision for me because I remember seeing sadness in my mom's eyes. I had hid my drinking pretty well for the years, but this one time I saw the sadness in my mom's eyes, and I was like, that was maybe that was the leverage to make the decision. Um, I just gonna say, I don't know. You probably hear that like hissing sound. That's the heater. Oh, you don't hear it. Good. Okay. Well, the heater is kicking on at
That's good
perfect time.
news.
Yeah, that is good. That is good news. But anyways, yeah, to celebrate 14 years sobriety. I mean, if I think back I used to be proud of some silly things because I had been in the drunk tank, essentially spent the night in jail in the drunk tank in every Canadian province west of Quebec. So you count them: Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, all of those. And that was like something I was proud of, like, oh yeah, silly. And I always kind of said like either I'm going to lose my driver's license or lose my wife or lose my job or lose my life. And three of those things did happen. So I and thankfully didn't lose my life. So this is, although I'm feeling a little low energy today because I'm a bit sick, like inside, so much gratitude for that decision for myself. I sent a little post to my family today. You saw that, Hanna, a little post to let them know and see if they remember any fun memories from pre that decision, which I'm sure they remember all too well. But yeah, it's what a life, what a journey, right? We think back to all the different milestones and the things we've experienced, the things that who we've become, and now we get to stand here and create going forward.
It's like chapters, right? Like that was a chapter in your life, and now you can look at it from with a little bit of distance and with more tools, even, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I love it. Thank you for holding the space on that. Let's jump into the myth.
Mhm.
We got a yoga myth today, Hanna.
Yeah.
What have you got planned?
So this is a myth that I'm sure sometimes must have said, but it's one that I don't actually love that much.
Mm.
And it's the myth that goes like this. It says everything happens for a reason. And so we could discuss like pros and cons. If it was
Mm.
true, then what does that mean? And if it wasn't, or why would it not always fit to say that or think that,
Yeah,
right?
I think we have to be sensitive, right? Depending on the context of what happens, right? If somebody's going through tragedy in their life, it could be very insensitive to say to that person, "Hey, everything happens for a reason," right? If they're going through something really tragic.
And maybe
So,
that's why I don't love it. Because even if
mm,
I'm not going through something tragic, it still brings my mind back to that and say, like, oh,
mm,
what's the reason for that to happen? And one of the things that I've learned over the years when it comes to like understanding what happened to my husband, why did he have to die? Like the question why was never really answered by any wisdom tradition or any soul searching that I might, engage in. And what I've learned is then not to ask the question why,
mm,
rather look both backwards and in this moment and forward with understanding since it has happened and
mhm.
I cannot change it. Because if I could, of course I would. But since this has happened, then what are the consequences? So rather than looking for reasons, I was like, everything has consequences.
Yeah. No, I get that, and so even just knowing that, knowing your perspective, which is a representative of several others, no doubt, millions of people, I want to be sensitive in my response. And for my, I guess, my personal experience,
Mm.
maybe because I haven't gone through, a serious tragedy in that same sense. I have been the type of guy that says that, like, everything happens for a reason. I've kind of lived that way and I believe that, and I've looked for synchronicities and I've looked for I find meaning in things. I
Yeah.
create meaning,
Yeah.
and
I
it's
think
worked, but I get it.
yeah, like I think it's like an like the reason why a person might say that or like might think that or want to think that is because in a way it's like an attempt to look for logic and like reason in the chaos that life kind of is or sometimes feels like, because that might bring certainty, like okay, so there is a plan here in place and we are held by something bigger than ourselves. So in that way I don't mind, um, you know,
Mm,
that type of inquiry, right? Like in that way, it makes sense to me to think about
yeah. And I guess that's probably how I'm normally engaging with it. Like
it.
just example, the what happened last week where I was sick for a week, so I'm laying in bed and I've got all these symptoms, and I have to miss class and I had to cancel appointments and I had to miss some of the Happy Jack yoga calls, and yourself and Kristen stepped up. Thank you both so much. And so it was an inconvenience and it didn't feel good, but like a day or two into, a couple of 2 or 3 days into it, I started like feeling, I started probably coming up with meaning, or being like, actually, I see why this has happened, right? I've been working too hard, been pushing too hard, haven't been pausing to reflect and to just being busy all the time. And so this is like the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, slowed things down. And now I have this time. All I can do is lay in bed and reflect. And then I, started noticing of like, oh, this is really good. Like I not being productive. I'm clearing my calendar. I'm taking some time, and I guess that somehow feels good to me to make meaning of that sickness versus being like, oh, it's because I went to this event
Mhm.
and so was probably sick and they got me sick, and then now I'm like blaming another person or blaming the world. Instead, it's like, oh, I get it. I get this. um because I could say, like, I was very healthy before I got sick. Like, really, I think everything was like optimized. Taking my supplements, taking my vitamins, doing all my exercise, like everything optimized. And then, boom, I get sick. So I could have easily been like, well, this doesn't make sense, da da da. But instead, it's like, oh, actually, this did happen for a reason. And again, that works for me. I'm not saying it's like backed up by some wisdom tradition that this is true for everybody and it's healthy in every context. But for me, it tends to work. It keeps me from being a victim, and kind of finding empowering meaning in the circumstances that I find myself in.
Mhm.
That's how it helps me.
Yeah.
But I could see how we got to be sensitive, and it's not maybe not always going to work.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's a great thing to say. Like, it's almost like something you can say to yourself. Like, that would
Yeah.
make sense because then we're using it to analyze our own circumstances. But to analyze another person's circumstances might not be so helpful. And when it's not something serious, maybe it's not a big deal to say that, right?
Yeah. My experience, that doesn't work to analyze other people's circumstances or to give feedback or give advice. Anybody in a relationship knows that. Hanna and I, we know that. Those who are like even just a week or two ago, right, Hanna, a week ago, we got into a conflict, just a disagreement. And it's like, as soon as we're as soon as there's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, we're not in any position to talk about anybody else in that sense. Like we can only really take ownership for ourselves.
Mhm.
And so that really fits in with this idea here.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right.
So I guess as for the myth, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's like a clear accept or bust. It sounds like maybe for me, it's I use it personally. Hanna, you use it in the right circumstance, but we all want to be mindful.
Yeah. Can I do
Yeah,
the Indian head thing?
that's right.
Yes, both end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anybody who doesn't know, so Hanna's like shaking her head side to side, which is what we do in India and many people from India. And it's basically, they're such kind people. So this is what has been explained to me by those from India, is that they're such kind. They want to create such a positive environment that they wouldn't want to say no to another person, because like there's just an energy around saying no. And so if you ask them something, and if you ask them a question or ask if you'll do something, if can you take care of this thing for our yoga retreat that we're having in India, they kind of shake their head, and you're like, oh great, like they didn't say no and they're shaking their head, must mean it's going to get taken care of. And basically it's inside they're not committing to it, but they're also not saying no. It's kind of a fun little thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's jump in. We're going to touch on a main topic here before we
Mhm.
get to our hot seat, which I think is going to be a fun part. But we had what, module 7 is the last one we were looking at.
Yeah, in module 7, we discuss anatomy. There's going to be two modules discussing anatomy. So this is part 1.
Mhm.
And so I think that, like, leading yoga teacher trainings, anatomy is often the place where a lot of pressure comes up for students because anatomy is something challenging. It's like the math in yoga, like at the yoga school. If we had math class, then anatomy would be like that. Some people love it, and
Mhm.
a lot of people don't love it. right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. And so is there a specific question, or do you want me to just kind of start sharing about it?
Yeah, like why do we teach anatomy? Why do we have to learn anatomy as yoga teachers? And how much anatomy do we have to learn
Yeah.
as teachers?
Yeah, it's important to talk about. And because like you say, there are certain yoga teachers who aren't passionate about anatomy. And if you can't see, I've got both arms up in the air right now, and I'll own it. I'm not crazy, passionate about anatomy. And I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it can't be very interesting. But all of us have something that drew us to this practice of yoga. And for some of us, it was like a stilling of the mind. For some of us, it was like connecting to our heart or connecting to something bigger than ourselves. And for many of us, it was like feeling the physical, the energy and the strength that we were cultivating in our body, which is tied to the anatomy. So we're all going to have something that really inspires us about the practice. As for how much do we need to know? Well, for to be a 200-hour yoga teacher, according to Yoga Alliance, there's a very small component of that curriculum. I can't. I think it's under 10 hours of the 200 hours. It's a very small amount, focused on anatomy and physiology. So just so we have our basics, as a yoga teacher, we don't have to be an expert on the inner workings of the human body, but it is helpful to know some basics about your major muscle groups, major skeletal system,
Mhm.
and because we may find ourselves in conversation with a student, and they may have a question for us, and of course, as in is always the case, if anybody has a question for us that we don't know the answer to, we don't want to just BS it and come up with something. It's like so okay. In fact, it's very, very, uh, you know, acceptable to simply say, I don't know. I don't know that, but I'm happy to dig into that and get you an answer and figure it out for you. So we
Yeah.
don't. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like anatomy sometimes comes across into yoga. Like I find like two tracks. Like one is like we study anatomy for safety so that we know that here's a muscle, here's the tendon. We're not supposed to do this or that with the knee because it's a joint and it's this type of joint. Like just for basic safety, we would want to know some anatomy. But then I think that sometimes this, like I've noticed in the yoga spaces and maybe with myself too in the beginning, like we think that if we understand anatomy, then we understand yoga asana. Like somehow we believe that, oh, if I get it, how it works in the body, then I will understand it better because yoga is such a mysterious process as well. So again, it's kind of like, I think like very human wish to kind of map what happens in yoga and why it makes us feel the way it does.
Mm, yeah, and that's I like what you say that why it makes us feel the way it does. And I think back to in our course, the 200-hour Hero's Journey, Jen Mark, who's our expert, a dear friend of yours, Hanna, that we love. When
Mhm.
she's teaching it, after teaching all of the details of the anatomy, there's also a class, right? So you can practice along, and Jen will speak to everything that you've learned while you're going through your flow of the hero's journey. And so it is really nice to then take the head, the knowledge, and actually feel it physically in our body. And as we've said, different people are going to have different levels of interest in it. Like I know our friend Brandon, who's here with us live listening in. He went and he bought the anatomy textbook. He showed it with us, showed it to us the other day on the camera. And he's like, I got the textbook, I'm reading it, I'm underlining, I'm making notes. And so certain yogis will get excited about it. And I think he did personal training before, so he's got some experience in there. Um, but the cool thing, so that's we talked about the 200-hour, where you got to just get the basics, the basic fundamentals of anatomy and physiology. And then when we come to the 300-hour, right, the yoga mastery, the cool thing about that program is you really get to decide where you want to go deeper as a yoga teacher. And in that course, according to the Yoga Alliance, there's zero additional requirements to go deeper in anatomy. So it's not like even to be a 500-hour advanced, it's not like you need to be more advanced in anatomy. But of course, with our curriculum, because we do have the flexibility, we do provide some options to go deeper into the area that each person is passionate. So when you do the 300-hour yoga mastery, you could do the yoga for injuries course, which is yourself, Hanna, and Jen Mark co-create that. And so it's like, if you want to understand the more subtleties of anatomy and how it applies to injury prevention and all of these kinds of things, that can be chosen as one of your modules for the 300-hour. But if that's not something of particular interest, then take yoga for mental health, or
Yeah.
what some other of the many different courses. So I guess I hope that's kind of helpful. It gives in a sense of what's expected, what's required, and what the options are.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, just to close the anatomy chapter, I think it's like a gradual thing as well, just like all things yoga. Like, you expose yourself to the teachings, and then as you practice, your knowledge will always keep expanding. You'll always learn more as you are exposed, as you yoga, as you take courses. Maybe sometimes it's an actual injury that teaches you about your own anatomy, or a student of yours, they say, I have this thing around my shoulder, and then you start looking for information, and maybe they need to see somebody for that. But it's like a gradual awakening. I
Mm.
think.
I like that. I like that. It's being gradual. Um, I think with everything, right?
Mm.
Like it's like a slow cooker, right?
Yeah.
What do they say? There, somebody uses that analogy, right? I'm the guy who cooks very quickly, you know that, Hanna.
Yeah.
Like this is how I make pasta. Everybody, you were just in Italy, like they would frown. Probably everybody on the podcast still will shake their head. I'm the guy who makes the pasta, and I'll just put the pasta sauce right into the pot, and eat it right out of the pot. Like, that's sometimes how I am. Not advised, but for me, it's about efficiency. And then, of course, that has a certain level of quality. Even I will admit. Versus if we make something with the slow cooker, and you put the slow cooker and it sits out there on the counter all day long, right, from like 6 a.m. until 6 p.m., 12 hours of like simmering all the different vegetables and spices and whatever it happens, that. So again, just that taking that time to assimilate, to absorb, whether it's anatomy, whatever content it is we happen to be immersing ourselves in, is more advisable than the quick meals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. So stay tuned, because we will touch more on anatomy, and if others have questions as well, please send them in. In a moment here, we're going to jump to some of the hot seat questions, but I'm just going to trust my intuition, because I see our friend Saga is back in the realm, no longer on her walk. Uh, because Saga, just because I know you had some great questions a couple of weeks ago or something when we were talking about therapy. If you have if there's like something that came up you wanted to ask, you wanted to share, raise your hand and let us know. We'll bring you on, but no pressure, no pressure at all. Um, and but I'll jump to a hot seat question with Hanna, and if you or anybody else, because I just thought we had some good chats there. So Hanna, this is the question. This is the first one.
Let me take a sip of water before you.
Oh yeah. So
So I don't have to
the
spit it out. Yeah, go ahead. I'm
what
ready.
what is one thing that you wish I understood better about you,
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. Just one.
or more? I'll take notes.
This is recorded, so that's really good. One thing that I loved that I don't know about me specifically, but about life, I think, because sometimes I feel like I represent life in your system, because you're like Shiva and I'm Shakti. Like, that means you're very, like, stable, predictable, um, goal oriented. You have a plan in place for everything. And then bam, here comes I. And I'm like, oh no, but hey, let's do it this way. And how about that? And did you see the sunshine? and like, just very much in the present moment. And if I could give you a gift, it would be to have access to the miracles that are happening nonstop around you. And I know that you do have access to those as well when you remember, and when things are you know peaceful, then you do have access to those. But I would want for you to have more of um like space for unpredictability and not knowing, and spontaneity, like throwing yourself into adventures
Mhm.
without a goal in mind, without like I would love to see you do that, let's say. I would love to, um as your friend, navigate, like see how that would go for you, you know
Yeah, no, no, for sure. I receive that. Like, there's so much that I'm not present to. I don't see flowers. I don't. When I'm walking down the street, I don't notice the.
like you have to be trained, like, look, here's a flower, I like to eat them, let's pick these flowers and put them on the salad. Like, that's when you then figure that out, then you'll do it. It's not like you're
Yeah,
not wanting
right.
to. It's just
Yeah,
that
yeah. Well, that's right. Once I know the right thing to do, then I do it every day. But I don't just.
that is
There's no
so true.
there's no presence. There's no awareness. Like, I'm on a mission. I'm on a
You
mission
are. Like, you
all the
guys should have
time.
seen him apply, like, how when you're sick and your lips crack, the cream, what is that called? Lip
It's a
balm.
chapstick. Yeah, lip balm. Yeah.
Like, the application process was very interesting to watch. It was like 15 minutes. I was like, dude, you want to save some for tomorrow? He was going back and forth and back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, you can save some for tomorrow. And you said, no, I just don't want to miss any spots. Back and forth
Yeah.
and back and forth. And that's
That's the
probably something you've identified as a good
I
method.
do things very thoroughly. That's
Yeah,
right.
like
Yeah.
that is true.
No,
Yeah.
that's not. I received that for sure. I mean, and there's a lot I could say about that. And I'm going to end, and thank you for that, because it's a really beautiful response. And I'm going to ask the question again, just to like really get at the core of the question, because you had some really nice uh, thoughts for myself. And so the question was, what is one thing that you wish I understood better about you? So
Mhm.
so now something about yourself
Yeah.
that you wish I understood, or other, could be me, it could be others,
Yeah.
understood better.
I think I will stick with this theme of spontaneity and being present and living fully in the moment, because that's what I do. And so that's why I kind of, maybe it didn't come out right, but I would want you to invite you in it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So basically, you would want me to know that you love spontaneity
You
and
know that, but I'd
present,
want you to
right?
experience it with
Uh-huh.
me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I
Mhm.
received that, and just for fun of like, maybe I'm like,
Yeah,
it's a
go ahead.
language thing, or just, but in the essence of the question. So because like you said, you know that I know that. Is there something I don't know yet? Or is there something I or others don't know yet that you wish that we understood you better? Or have you communicated all these things? They just maybe haven't sunk in so well. Do I know everything? Um, or is there something? It's like, hey, I wish you, Jack, or you, society, understood this better about me.
Well, it's difficult to put into words, but um like I like dancing. Like, if we were dancing, I would want to be like, I don't know, I'm fully there. And that's just one thing that came to mind because it's you asking me this, but I don't know, it's a very vast and big question to answer, like what something about me better. I
Mm.
don't know if I have a better answer than that.
No, I hear you. Yeah, no, I mean, what it is that you love is spontaneity and being
Presence, like
present.
the miracle
Present.
of this in breath, this temperature on my skin, this moment of us being together right here, like boom, it's going to be gone and everybody's going to
Yeah.
go back into their lives. Like this moment is where I think we can touch each other. I mean, energetically and spiritually, and as friends and as co-navigators of life,
Hmm.
like this is the moment where um I think magic is like that's the co-creation moment that happens right here, right now.
Yeah. So I wonder then, like, so as yogis, like just kind of taking a step back, because I feel like when we're in conversation, like you and I right now, Hanna, and the 15 other yogis in the Zoom room who I get to see their smiling faces, and if we're in a Happy Jack Yoga satsang call or something, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in those moments I am very present and I'm very like I'm really listening, with the students, with the community. But I definitely acknowledge that then when I go out into the quote unquote the rest of the world, the real world, the rest of the day, there's a lot that I miss. A lot of missing, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
not seeing the flowers. So I guess that's really our opportunity as yogis, right? Is taking these good qualities that we've cultivated and really living them in all different circumstance, right? Not just being a nice person when we're helping the old lady across the street, but being a nice person and helping people all the time, not just in that one isolated instance, but really doing it all the time. Not just being present while we're facilitating as yoga teachers, but also being present when we're just going through the day to day of life.
Yeah, I think it's like an added layer of vulnerability, of like willingness to participate with life. Whether we're like, I totally agree. And I understand like what you're saying about like when we're facilitating, we're fully present and in a moment of co-creation with everybody who's in the room, because we don't know what somebody's going to say in the next moment or how they're going to enjoy the yoga class or whatever conversations we're in. So we're really are fully present in order to be able to got like hold a space for everyone, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, that would be wonderful to navigate outside of those circles in this way.
Yeah, it's like the idea of taking our yoga off the mat,
Yeah.
right? So not just doing the yoga and being connected to our breath when we do asana, or not only having a calm mind and presence when we're sitting in meditation, but taking that into all of the different moments of the day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like how, do you remember how I often say also like about like what reveals itself moment by moment
Mhm.
is like what makes for me life a mystery and exciting, and not thinking that I already know you or that I know everyone. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what you're going to say. That
Yeah.
keeps me engaged and fascinated no
Well,
matter
let's
what. Yeah.
so in the essence of that idea, let me spontaneously hit you with another unexpected question. Let's give you some
I love it.
spontaneity, Anna.
Go ahead.
So, what was your first impression of me, and how has it changed?
My first impression of you was that you were doing just that, what I was just describing. Like you were fully present with everyone in the room and you were like weaving together an experience for everybody who was in the room. And we were 75 people in the room. And then how that has changed. Well, of course, I know you better now and I know more about you, right? So I have more context for you. But I do like to think that you still do that and that you And I know like it's a practice of yours. Like you would do that for my kids. You wanted to create experiences for them and with them and with me. Like I do think it's a big part of who you are, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So okay, so basically, I haven't changed in 10 years since we met. Yeah,
Well, there's maybe some other areas where you don't do that, but I don't know if it's a change,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I get it. No, I'm just putting it out there. These are questions that I found. So I'm not digging for something, right? I just found what so I thought were some good questions.
Mhm.
So I'll give you one last one. We'll see if we can get some traction here. What?
Are we not having traction yet?
No, the first one was excellent. We went on a good response. Maybe that second one didn't hit as much, but anyway, I didn't like it because it was focused on me, and I want to focus it. Somehow these questions are kind of focused on us. What is something you love about our friendship, and what is something we could work on?
I love about our friendship that I fully trust you to be a very, very good person. Like I know you've got my back from now till eternity, even no matter what. That's what I love about us, and it makes me emotional and grateful. That's something I know with everything that I am. And that's beautiful to me because that's not the case that I would have that type of relationship with so many people.
Yeah,
And what we can work on. Well, I guess we need to figure out our boundaries. Like what happens if I meet someone or you meet someone? Can we still have a deep relationship, right?
mhm.
That can
Yeah,
be
that's
something to work on. That might shift the dynamics of our relationship right now.
yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, we only got a few more minutes here, kind of going into big territory, but like our relationship is pretty interesting if you think about it. Like I haven't thought this through, but like we didn't really like legally get married, but we had a ceremony in Mexico at a retreat with a bunch of students
And a shaman.
and a shaman, right? And then we got engaged a couple of years ago. But it's like and now that we're in this space of
And we
like
did have an uncoupling ceremony right here
yeah.
together.
Yeah, so it
The
was never
two
it
of
was
us.
that's right, the two of us. It was never like fully completely all in legally.
We didn't
And
commit fully.
right, maybe that was the problem. And then but then at the same time, yeah, it's like now many things have stayed the same, right? In 2 weeks, you're going to drive to Boston. You're going to be the one who helps me move back to Canada. I'm going to live with you for a few weeks over the Christmas holidays. So much
Yeah,
hasn't
and you were like,
changed.
"What? Are you leaving to Italy in January? I wanted to hang out with you." I'm like, "You're hanging out with me for weeks on end." Like,
Yeah.
and it's nice. I appreciate that. And also like just to describe like our relationship, I think that like your parents probably don't really get it that we're not together, even if we've told them. And what
Mhm.
like my therapist would ask me, like, so are you guys together or not? Because we are doing so many things together. Like it's
Yeah.
unclear to everyone except
Yeah,
us.
right, exactly. Probably even on the call, they're like, "Yeah, what's going on?" No, but that's a really good point that we need that for us to talk about and work through and set those boundaries, because eventually one of us, probably you first, will meet somebody.
Very likely. Because you're going into an ashram.
Yeah,
I mean, you could meet someone in an ashram, so
I'm
and
gonna
it's
meet
not a race. But
exactly.
knowing you, I know you're
Hmm.
slower on that front, maybe.
Yeah. That's good. Well, that's good responses. I
Mhm.
didn't know. I hope we didn't go too far off track with yoga and yoga teacher training. But I mean, these are the kinds of things that we navigate. Yogis are humans, right? They find themselves in relationship. They find themselves in business partnership. They find themselves in situations where they're leading others and deciding how they want to show up. So I, yeah, it's nice to take. I mean, these are the kind of things we get to. That's the nice thing about a relationship is we get to go on these evening walk and talk, and talk about these kind of things. So
Mm,
let's keep the conversation going.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, and for everybody who's been here with us, and it's nice to see the smiles. Again, I'll leave a few announcements I wanted to say at the end. Oh, thanks, Amy. Brave questions. Yeah, I know they were. We haven't thought through them, but let's keep reflecting on those. We're both in therapy, so we're safe. Um,
And also, like, just to let everyone know, like, I did not know these questions in advance.
no,
So
so
I
you
just,
hit me up next week.
yeah. If you guys have ideas, email me.
Yeah, that's I say we do that. We did a little bit too long today. Maybe there was like 20 minutes, but if we like the last 10 minutes of each episode, hot seat, let's keep, we'll go back and forth each week and we'll see who can ask more brave questions. Yeah, because this is what yoga is about. It's about being real.
At least that's what Happy Jack Yoga community is about.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Amazing. Well, again, this upcoming week, it's for those in USA and really around the world, it's Black Friday. So if anybody has been thinking about joining, becoming a 200-hour yoga teacher, trained teacher, or 500 hours certified, best deal of the year, send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. For those of you who are supporting us in Patreon, it's a community supported podcast. If you want to go to patreon.com/. Happy Jack Yoga. I think the link is
It's
it's in the
coming.
notes as well. Oh, there we go. For those who make a contribution, price of a cup of coffee per month allows us to grow this huge podcast empire. No, it's not that. That's not what it's about. It's about being able to come here and be real. And we appreciate your support. And if anybody wants to join us live in Zoom, send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. If you'd love to join Yoga for Grief next month in December, then send us an email. We'll get you the details on that. And most importantly, make it an amazing rest of the day. Thank you, Hanna. So happy to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be
And
back. Thank you,
and
everyone.
and we will see you all very soon. For those who are here with us live in Zoom, if you want to stick around for a few minutes, we'll debrief. And otherwise, make it an amazing day. Namaste.
Namaste.